Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of BLAST Load-In. This is a look forward, a preview of what's going to be coming up in the Spring Showdown. Try and kind of encapsulate these like 1 week before the events, and also going to do a post-show 1 week after the events. A look forward and a look back to see everything that happened over at the BLAST events. Yeah, going to be here on Twitch and YouTube. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. In this case, we're obviously discussing the Spring Showdown coming up, the groups having taken place way back when in January. Give you a little bit of a refresher of which teams we're going to be seeing, which players we're going to be seeing, having a lot of fun with that. Obviously talking through some of the drama through the moves that all these teams have been made and just kind of the level everyone's at coming into these events. First and foremost, the biggest news that we have to give you, might have seen the tweet from Blast just, I believe it was yesterday. We're going back to Lisbon. Spring Finals going to be held in Portugal, in Lisbon. It's been, I think, almost 4 years towards the end of 2018 when we were last in Lisbon for a Counter-Strike event. I know everyone that was there is super happy to get back because Lisbon was one of the most mind-blowing experiences we've had. Not even exaggerating that one. Absolutely wild experience out there in Lisbon with all the Portuguese fans, obviously. Tickets for that are going to be on sale tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central Europe, not Eastern, that's American, Central European Standard Time. I got there. And just so you guys know, joining me today, you might have just heard his voice there, Anders. You see him on screen as well. Gonna have Anders and Floppy from Complexity will be joining us later. But first, Anders, you were one of the guys with us in Portugal. You pumped to get back there to Lisbon?
Oh, yeah, I was so disappointed originally when it turned out we had to sort of delay getting back there to begin with. So I'm really excited. I think everyone wanted to get back to Lisbon. So yeah, we've been waiting patiently, trying to disguise my disappointment. So I'm excited.
Cool. Well, let's dive into it because we have the showdown coming up. We don't have a wealth of time today. It's not infinite time that we have. It's been about 2 months since you and I casted the spring group. So since then, how have you enjoyed the progression? Because I know coming into the start of the season was like all these new lineups coming together, all these new teams kind of experimenting with new players, new rosters. There was a huge shakeup across the scene, across the board. So how have things kind of progressed in these last 2 months since the group stage?
I mean, I feel like back when we started this whole thing, you're right. We had FaZe just sort of newly minted with Robs being added. We had, the Vitality lineup. We had the new G2 lineup. And I think those were like some of the big highlight names that there was a lot of discussion going on. Some of our more French-leaning analysts were really excited about Vitality. I had some doubts myself, I remember, and I think they only just kind of now snuck through the RMRs real close. So I don't know if I want to say that I've been vindicated, really, but I still have some doubts about Vitality. I think it's like a really cool project. I just think, it might still take a little bit longer, but I think overall, I mean, FaZe are looking really interesting and I think really cool at the moment. I enjoy where that's going, and I still think we're on for a year of some of the best Counter-Strike that we've seen in a real long time.
It's funny watching the FaZe one and the whole situation with Vitality that you brought up, because I know when Rops joined that FaZe team, that's one of the few times I think like every analyst and every pundit and every player in the scene, it was all universally agreed that it was going to make them championship contenders. And obviously they've rattled off 2 in a row now with IEM Katowice in ESL Pro League. And as you mentioned, Vitality still, they have to rely on Dupree. Of all the people on that team, I don't think they were ever thinking they would have to rely on Dupree to go beast mode.
Yeah, that's been interesting. I mean, if he doesn't pick up that AK specifically in this last RMR game, that is sort of fresh on everyone's mind now. Yeah, if he doesn't get like a bunch of AK kills across some of those maps, they're not even making it at all. Obviously, Saiwu not showing up in the way that you're kind of expecting. There's so much going on there, but I don't know. Like I actually still believe in the project. I just think it just has a longer runway than I think maybe most people are expecting. So I think that's good. That could be rough.
Yeah. Well, let's move on, talk specifically about the showdown now. Obviously, you can still touch on plenty of those teams and everything. When you look at the teams that are in the showdown, are there any like true surprises to you? Anything that like kind of stands out, I guess would be the best way to put it?
I need a graphic, Jason. Can I get that?
Yeah.
I need a full on.
We have the technology.
Well, listen. You say that, but I mean, some of those here that are that are actually from the group size. I'm assuming these are like the ones that are already qualified, right?
Already qualified. Yep.
Yeah. So just to recap the showdown format, if anyone is not sure of it, right? Like obviously the two teams that are coming through the spring showdown, and like they were all like, there's no second chances down there. That's going to be really rough. I mean, I would say in terms of in terms of where OG are at, just relating to the RMR, right? The fact that they're already qualified from the groups is probably right now something that they are really thankful for, because that didn't really turn out the way that they'd expected, right? So if you're not going to be making the major, I think it's real important you start qualifying for everything else, right?
Yeah, for those who might just be tuning in, might not have kept their eyes on the RMR, OG was eliminated this morning for contention of being at the playoffs, which for, a team that one of those other teams that kind of had the shuffle. Remember bringing in Nexa, starting to feel a little bit better. And, the interesting thing was coming into the group stage at the spring groups, OG was one of those teams that looked absolutely unstoppable. They had an incredible group stage run to even qualify for the spring finals, to everyone's kind of surprise. So bummer they won't be at the major. A team that also surprised, that constantly has these like little increases in performance that get you excited. What do you think about Big? Have we finally, with the addition of Kimbo and the level of Kimbo that we've seen in the RMR, is this a big team that's going to stay here, or is this a big team that's going to break our hearts again?
Listen, Jason, I don't want to get. I know what you're trying to do. I know what this is. Every time you start believing that Big is gonna really make it for real this time, there's some disappointment that's coming right around the corner. You don't know when. But they do look exciting. That's actually what I hate the most. I feel like I get tricked into this every single time. But yeah, if you look at this lineup of teams, Big don't seem out of place the way that they're playing right now. So I guess we just have to. Yeah. We can't escape it. We just have to go back and be back on that train once again. You want to know what I looked at right before we went live that was coming into this, just to get a refresher. This one, I don't know if it's necessarily a surprise factor, but obviously disappointing. I don't know if anyone else noticed, no teams from the Americas are in that the qualified groups graphic. Everyone, even the Brazilian teams got knocked out, and even went back and looked at the spring groups, and all three North American teams are in dead last from spring groups. It's like Complexity, EG, and Team Liquid all just got dead last in the group stage. So that's painful. We can bring up the Americas bracket whenever we have a chance here, and we can actually look through who's going to be playing in this kind of showdown. Remember, the European and Asian one. You could see the Asian team that's going to be there, Team NKT as well. Pretty cool international mix of Asian players from multitude of countries, which is cool to see. But obviously a pretty deadly bracket to be in as well. Yeah, unbelievably so. There's actually, especially I think in the upper bracket right now, there's going to be a bloodbath, right? Because ENCE have suddenly proven that they're actually a really competent team. Copenhagen Flames, I guess, during the last major made a huge name for themselves, and Heroic is up there. So I don't know. I'm assuming, especially the semifinals in the upper part of the bracket, is going to be really wild. And down below, you've got the Astralis lineup, you got NIP there's still no news about devices there and what's happening. There's so many questions here, but yeah, this is going to be absolutely brutal. There's no way around it. Yeah, still without device, but remember that it's the first match I think that Brolin is going to be coming into the lineup after they just recently got him from Fnatic. So I don't know. The whole thing is going to be crazy. This is the Americas bracket that you guys can see up here. I don't know. I don't even know. There's so many different places that we can dive into this graphic as well, which is absolutely wild to think about. I'm sure we'll sink our teeth into it deeper when Floppy gets on and can give us some more information. But the way Furia looked at the RMR, Team Liquid having improved performances, but for me it's like the bottom of the barrel in NA. I've seen like an increased step. They've gained a step on some of the top teams that you'd think of in NA. I'm willing to make the prediction even that if Liquid, if when this was happening, if they were playing the way that they are today, they wouldn't even have been to the showdown. I think Liquid would have made it out of their group if they'd just been playing as well as they do today. I think Liquid are a really sick team. I would say it's just a little bit unfortunate on the timing. They were off by maybe a month or something. If they would have played this as good as they do today a month ago, I don't think they even are in the. But the problem is, I think they're probably favorites to make it through the NA part of the bracket here. But the issue still is it's just cutthroat down there. No mistakes can happen, right?
Yeah,
so I think it's going to be rough. Yeah. Yeah, well, let's do this really quick because I want to really quick before we bring Floppy in. Let's get you to predict the team that's going to be coming out of each side of each region of these. Because remember, these are going to be online regional brackets in North America and over in Europe throughout this showdown. So North American side, we just saw the bracket. Who do you have getting through? You got the likes of Furia, you got Complexity in there, you got Liquid, you got Evil Geniuses. Who you taking? You got Sharks and Godsend as well. I don't want to leave those guys out. Well, yeah, I appreciate you making me do this before Floppy comes on. Like that's always good,
Yes.
right?
I did hear the click of him joining the channel, so I know he can hear you as
right,
you say this.
good.
Is also partially why I did it.
All right. Well, I reckon Floppy and his merry band are not going to be making it through.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to go with Liquid on this one. I'm really impressed by the way that they're playing right now. I think they're a solid team. So, yeah, I'll push it in for Liquid this time. Yeah, see what happens.
All right, and then really quick over to the European bracket. Who do you have making out of that one? You got the likes of probably the big names that you would pick a winner from. Are guys like teams like Heroic, ENCE, Astralis, NIP. You want to roll the dice in any one of those 4 squads?
Oh, that's so tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
That actually, if you had to pick a dark horse or like an underdog in that way, that would be insanely hard. But yeah, I think Heroic. I'm gonna pick Heroic. I feel like they have that energy right now still, so they seem like a safe pick to me at least.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's gonna be a fun one to see it roll down. We're gonna get into we actually had you craft your dream North American lineup, and I've heard tell that this is actually an insane lineup that you build in. We're gonna get into it, but we want to bring Floppy on and say hi to Floppy really quick before we watch you construct your dream team that may or may not include him. What's up, Floppy?
Hey, what's up?
Oh, not too much, man. Just some morning coffee for us Americans. This is a tough ask, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been up for like 2 hours now. I'm pretty exhausted.
Perfect. Just preparing, watching demos, and looking ahead at all the fun stuff.
Of course.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this. Anders, we're going to bring in your dream team. And I want you to talk me through the logic that I know you did not have when you made this.
Listen, I use such an incredible amount of logic. Actually, I don't think anyone's going to be able to deny this. So this is obviously my NA dream team. We got Josh Nissan back, Steel back in there. We got Sean Gares, legendary in-game leader, of course. Basically made American Counter-Strike on his own. Many people don't know that, but he did. Now, see, everyone is always occupied with trying to win things here, but I have put together the team that will get the most ridiculous, social media, YouTube and Twitch interaction of all time. We're going to film everything, and it's going to be like a whole Big Brother thing. We'll put everyone in. We've put you in there, Jason, obviously.
I look way too happy to be in there with the people surrounding me. I look way too happy for this.
The idea is between the rest of the 4 of them, we basically need you and Sean to be the sort of the referees to make sure that people don't get completely out of control. But we might never win anything, but we will make more money than anybody else has ever done in esports. So that's the dream team right there.
Okay, you've taken Fallen's idea in building his new team around content and social media, and you've just done it a little bit worse. I do appreciate the mustache on Steel though in that picture.
Yeah, they found the best possible picture. Yeah, hell yes.
Floppy, any thoughts on that? I know it's difficult.
No, I think it's fine, but you're missing an important piece of the analyst, and I think for an analyst you need Brax. You need Brax to analyze this roster and see what's going on, how to get better as a team together.
I like that part.
You got like 3/5 of the way towards the complete meme, Anders, and then you just dropped the ball right at the end.
Listen, I tried. I had to really think. I also had to think my picks because I realized at some point I'm just picking sort of the most toxic people that I could come up with, and I realized that could also be insulting. So I was trying to be real careful.
Okay, that makes sense. Floppy, to get you involved, one of the big things that I've had with like complexity, and what I think one of the cool things with your team is, I don't know, you guys are like positioned as like the young potential, as like the next generation of North American players. But with that kind of comes, outside of guys like yourself who have been junior, who have played in like the tier 1 and had their chances, and Mike, obviously, I still think like on a wider scale, like people don't really know a whole lot about your team and the players specifically. So I kind of wanted to just ask you a few questions about your team and just see which player you would use to answer each question, if that makes sense to you.
Sure thing.
Cool. Who's the guy on the team you want in any clutch situation? 1v1, 1v2, long clutch, post-plant clutch, whatever it might be.
It's got to be me, bro. Ain't no way. It's got to be me. I'm LMS baiting. It has to be me.
Perfect. I like that. I like the confidence. Who's your hype man? Who's giving the halftime speeches, the pregame speeches? Who's getting you guys jazzed up? Who's the Cadian of your team?
I'd have to say it's our coach Tion. I think he's definitely the one who hypes us up as a team to go. I think everyone else is like, it's not even close, to be honest. Tion's always happy to just be here, so he's always ready to hype us up.
You have a lot of players.
Yeah, I changed my mind, bro. That was a last minute decision.
Oh, you guys have a lot of players on that team that just seem like happy-go-lucky. That just seem like smiles on their face at all time. It's except for Grim, obviously. Who's the likeliest player on your team to cut off Graham's man bun?
Oh, I think any one of us could be that guy. That could be anyone, dude. I don't know. Just roll a dice on that one.
Okay, I like it. Perfect. Who's got the most just raw skill, raw talent, player you want to avoid in an A map?
Oh, it has to be Grim. By far, it's Grim. It can't be me in a 1v1 A map. I'm horrible at those. Like, I was never ever good at them, so I'd have to be Grim.
Okay, great. Last one. This is the important one because each team has this player. Which player in your team low-key thinks that they can be an AWPer, but is actually completely hopeless with the weapon?
Oh, man.
Every team has one, so you can't skate by this one.
You know, as much as we troll Payton all the time, I think like it has to be me too. I think I can off like at least on CT, maybe not T, but I think CT side offing is definitely something I could do for sure.
Okay, perfect. Do you ever foresee yourself getting the chance for that one?
If it ever gets down to that, that's not going to be good. That's just bad looks, bro.
Perfect. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Blast, your guys' travels so far, because obviously back in January, I mean, for all the NA squads, EG, you, Liquid, kind of one of the first tournaments of these brand new squads we're playing in. You guys have obviously come a long way since then. If you look back on it now, what kind of were some of the struggles that you guys encountered? What are the areas where you kind of left that saying we have to improve upon this? Like how did the groups go for you?
I think in terms of like, because I haven't played. Last time I played LAN was like 2 years ago, so I think we're just like getting back into it. For me at least. But I think like the biggest thing is just having good comms, especially on LAN, like being aware of what everything's happening all the time, and be on the same page at all times is just super important. And every team has to have good comms to be the best. So I definitely have to say it's the comms.
I want to touch on that because I know you guys probably get never any questions about you guys who kind of flirted over with Valorant. But what's the experience like after playing Counter-Strike for so long and probably having so many like default, so many things like hammered into your head of Counter-Strike fundamentals, switching over to Valorant and then kind of coming back, like you're kind of shifting between two different disciplines. Has that been as much of a struggle as you thought it would be? More of a struggle, or has it just been kind of nice and easy for you?
Yeah, I'd say like the biggest difference in that game for me is like in terms of the T side defaults in that game, it's like you start off at the barrier, right? Versus in CS, you start off in your spawn. So there's like that sense of map control in CS. It's like a lot more important than Valorant because you kind of already start off where the map control is, like where the contestant points at. So I feel like that's like the biggest difference for me in terms of like defaulting.
Okay, I actually never even thought about it that way. That's actually super interesting. How have you guys been feeling in some of these various tournaments you guys have played in? Obviously, Pro League, you guys had the RMR and everything. You guys have had you won the open qualifier for the Americas RMR for whatever that means, but had to have felt good, at least on a pride level.
Yeah, it definitely feels good being Liquid in the online BO1. But yeah, ESL Pro League, it could have definitely gone our way, especially if we had 2 out of Charlotte at the end there. We literally would have made playoffs at ESL Pro League for that event. So I think it's definitely not ideal, but it could have definitely went our way at the end there.
Anders, do you get a chance to watch any of Complexity in the Americas RMR? Tune into a couple games here and there.
I'm trying to think back. There's so much content happening these days. So I probably didn't, did I? No, probably not.
He's watching a Rogue and a Strawless, man. That's all this guy's watching.
I've been called
out. That's all he's there for.
Yeah. No, okay. I was trying to reminisce back to like the part of the group stage where I think you guys ended up beating or like you almost, I think you nearly took down G2 in one of those early games on Nuke. I mean in the Blast like the winning spring group here. And then you almost beat I'm checking, almost Big as well, right? So you got pretty close to beating those two, right? So that feels like a decent like a decent starting point. Like I'm curious how the team has sort of like what's the feeling in the team since then. Like I have this theory internally that what the most important thing when you put together any kind of new lineup is trying to have like a common sense of when are we going to do something really awesome. I feel like if half the team is like we're going to be the best in 2 months and the other half thinks it's going to be in 2 years, that's going to be an issue. So is everyone on track with like the progress of the team right now?
Yeah, in terms of giving like a timeline for how good we're going to be, I don't really like doing that, especially after the Colossus. Like we're going to be like this sick team in X amount of time. So like I don't really like giving any sort of guarantee on that, but it does take time. I would say the bare minimum for being like at least the top 10 team is 6 months. Like by far it has to be. You have to have like just go through each event together, the amount of prac you go through, especially like when we can go to Europe and get the best prac we can. It's like it just takes a lot of time to be the best, you know.
So you're talking like the time frame after the majors when you feel like you guys could actually kind of start hitting a stride and see how far ahead the ceiling can be.
Yeah, not even just our team, but like any team in general. That's like brand new with a different core, especially with us getting a new opper. Is like especially with the opera role, like you have to integrate them well to be the best. So
that's actually kind of funny because I remember there was always a phase in Counter-Strike, and I think we've been shifting out of it over time. But like there used to be like that thing where if your team didn't show like a good result within like the first 2 or 3 months, like it was just like this project's already kind of doomed.
It's
like
over.
We better see that. Yeah, it's like that ceiling better hit quick, or else we got to start looking at changes already. And now it's like, well, 6 months process. It's like build into it. That's just the detailed level of Counter-Strike, I guess. We're going to bring up the bracket for the NA Showdown that you're taking part in. I just wanted to kind of get some of your thoughts on some of these matchups. I guess the first thing I want to ask you when you look at this, and maybe just a general conversation about a team that I want to speak about is EG, Evil Geniuses, because obviously they've been going through a little bit of a tough growing period with everyone coming back into things forming in January as well. Is there something in practice that you guys are seeing that's not translating to the matches, or is this like is the EG that we've seen kind of the EG we're going to get?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really been practicing against EG just because we're in the same group and for the RMR obviously, so we haven't really been playing against them that much. But I'd say like before EPL and the RMR, like I feel like this team they have a good team, right? They have like Breezy, Cirque, Audi, Rush, and Stewie. Like that's obviously a really good core man of team, but like I feel like the real lacking point is just I guess the leadership role. I think is a big problem on this team. Like obviously I'm not on the team. I don't know what's going on internally, but it just seems like they're losing rounds that they shouldn't be losing, and I think it just comes from like I don't know, having like a sort of main guy that's like calling the shots. I don't really know what's going on, to be honest. Like I can't explain it myself.
No, it's all good. I think they'd probably struggle to explain it as well. I was just curious if there was if you'd ever practice against them and you were like seeing the pieces come together. But we could forget about that one. Let's just move on to your bottom part of the bracket, going against MIBR, and then you got Liquid and Pain Gaming. Were you surprised at how well some of those Brazilian teams did at the Americas RMR? They actually turned out to be dangerous.
Yeah, I wasn't really surprised at all. I think MIBR is a really good team, and I'm excited to play them on the 29th. It's going to be fun.
Cool. And then Team Liquid, you excited to beat them again in another online match?
Gotta beat OC online.
Oh yeah, that is going to be fun. Some of the former teammates going at it. Yeah. Who are you expecting? You're obviously going to put yourself as a team that's contesting for this final spot. Liquid's obviously going to be a big matchup for you. Do you see any way in which Furia doesn't make it out of the top side of that bracket?
No, I'm gonna have to say it's gotta be Fury on the grand final, and Fury Complexity grand final. It's just how it's gonna be, fellas.
Perfect.
Ooh,
I like that. What do you think, Eder? So you already said Liquid in the finals. You already have them beating Complexity.
Yeah, Thanks, Jason, for reminding us all. We appreciate it.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the one hand, actually, this kind of format, if we had to be a little bit reasonable, it actually doesn't favor a team like Liquid at all. I actually think it does kind of favor some of the more underdog teams, right? Like I would hate to make really, really strong predictions about anything that's happening in this. Like I think on the one hand, that's one of the heartbreaking ways that the showdown works, but it's also I think it does give an opportunity for some real interesting upsets. So I'm not going to rule anything out.
Cool. Let's before we get you out of here, that was the most lukewarm support I've ever heard in my life. But let's switch to a positive note. You guys qualified for the major. What was that like?
I mean, it still hasn't really hit me yet. It'll hit me when I actually see our stickers, because I don't know what Valve's gonna do if we get player stickers or it's only team stickers. So when I see my sticker, that's when it's gonna hit.
That's when it hits. Have you been to a major before? Is this your first?
Nah, this is my first major.
That's awesome. That's everyone's first major, I guess, in that team.
Yeah. Except Grim.
That's great.
True.
Was he at a major as well?
I think so. Right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he was.
Because I remember seeing a tweet. I saw a tweet and Grim wasn't on the list.
Oh yeah,
so.
he was at he was at I'm insane. He was at Stockholm.
Yeah, there we go.
I've lost my mind. I'm a broken shell of a man.
It's too early for us.
It is way too early. 10:30. Are you even over the jet lag? You're still on European time zone, aren't you?
I mean, I'm awake right now. We'll see what happens, dude. I don't know. Just go day by day with this traveling.
Perfect. We'll let you get out of here, man. We'll let you go have a good one and get some rest. And well, by the way, have you ever been to Lisbon before? Like this is what you guys are playing for. Another country to add to your list.
This will be my first time because we're gonna qualify. We're gonna make it. We have to make it.
Do you hear that, Anders?
Yeah, I love it. That's what I want to hear. I'm excited. He's selling it to me now. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're really being sold right now.
Listen, I want people who believe in themselves. I appreciate that.
Cool. Well, hey, man, Floppy, thanks for joining us. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the morning. Get some rest and start prepping up for the major. It's going to be fun.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Yeah, cheers.
See you, bro. All right. Well, that was good. I like Floppy. I like the confidence from Floppy. Oh, yeah, man. You know, one thing I wanted to ask him about, you know who I still on this team don't know anything about. I'll have to get some information.
Anything else from me?
Yeah, at the showdown. I met Fang at Pro League. Seems like he's one of those guys, always a smile on his face. I think he's pretty talented. I think he makes a really cool core for that team between Fang, Floppy, and Grim. They seem to have the rifling core down. I thought it was funny, also not funny, but hearing him talk about integrating an AWPer and integrating leadership when he was talking about EG. I think in North America, those are probably the two biggest hotspots that we have at the moment in terms of what we're lacking good. Not only in-game leadership in the game of Counter-Strike, but leadership figures on some of these teams. And then obviously AWPers has always been kind of a struggle role for North American to fill out.
Yeah, it really feels like it. I mean, even maybe it's not even just the players there, but even Cirque, brought him over from Europe, and even he seems to have sort of declined a little bit. So maybe it's something in the air. I don't know, there's something going on that makes people slightly worse. But I mean, I think on the other hand, OC has kind of taken. I think he's insane. Obviously not for hire at the moment, but yeah, there's something going on there. And on the leadership front, I mean, there's been this long running tragedy, hasn't there, where it feels like one of the people who could develop so much of this talent was Daps, and we've always been joking about it, about how, then he gets removed from the team, and usually Stanislaw comes in. There's just a lot of stuff that happens there, but I feel like that you're right, there aren't many people who can introduce people to how to play the more intelligent kind of Counter-Strike early on in their careers and sort of bring them up. That seems to be, obviously Sean Gez has gone to play Valorant too, or coach Valorant or whatever it is. So there's definitely some kind of weird, gap in the market in the North American scene for sure.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, especially I think the biggest tragedy of the DAP situation is reading through his tweet logger that he put out maybe a week ago, and just seeing the disillusionment of where the scene is heading and how it's going to get back. So we're heading into another dark ages of North American Counter-Strike, and maybe we're actually already there and we're just kind of having to deal with it. So going to be a little bit of a ways back. I have three things, Anders, that I want everyone to look out for when it comes to the Spring Showdown. We'll go point by point. We'll let you respond. Obviously, the first one is going to be the thing to look out for. Brolin to NIP. A first look at him within the new NIP roster. As you mentioned earlier, there's no real news about Device coming in, but Brolin to NIP is going to be an exciting thing to see debut. Obviously, if you look at the interviews that Hampus gave, about this over back at Pro League that was up on HLTV, some of the things he said. If you want to be the best Swedish team, you have to have the best Swedish player, and now we have them. That's big words for Brolin. And obviously the goal, as always, is to become title contenders. So again, they're looking at this pickup of Brolin and Anders to not only make them the best team in Sweden, but also make them title contenders on the entirety of the global stage, which is a very lofty goal.
Yeah, that's in the current space. That's a really hard one to reach, right? You have to get past, Navi and G2 and all the rest of it. There's no end in sight when you're looking up like that. I've got to say, I mean, there's a couple of things that I think that are interesting. I actually assume that when Device kind of took a step back from this team and they had to find a replacement, I really thought that was gonna basically level the team, because it feels to me like such a shocking scenario where you have the incredible confidence boost of coming in someone like Device, and you're playing next to like a legend like that, and all the experience and everything else from having played in Astralis for such a long time, and like everything that Sonic brought to that team now gets all like spills over into NIP, maybe some of it. And then it gets all taken away way before anything even happens, and you don't even get to like have like the real results. And then they still did all right, I think. I'm actually super impressed. I mean, someone like Fozy, for instance, took up the AWPing role, and I thought did really well. So I think there must be some core structure in this team somewhere that is able to survive, a little bit more than I think a lot of teams would have been able to. So I could give them the benefit of the doubt. I think Brolin is a really solid player. So I don't see a reason why this couldn't work, but I mean they really need to figure out like the magic sauce here in IP. And the one thing I've had to say something, sort of talking against that a little bit. I'm always super suspicious of the idea of bringing in one person to hope that it's the right puzzle piece. I always feel like that's somehow more difficult to do than to bring in like 2 or 3 more players, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think if you're NIP, you're also kind of, maybe they're in their heads are like, well, Device is coming back at some point. I guess that's got to be a holdout. I think it is just interesting. We just have no news on that. So I'm hoping that return is going to be soon, and I hope we get a very solid Device. The nice thing is I think he's listed as a sub on their major roster, an RMR roster, if I recall correctly. So he's at least kind of in the picture. We're just waiting official word of what's going on. Anyways, number 2, other thing to look out for at the Spring Showdown. This is again going to be over on the European side of things. The Heroic versus Astralis, the Danish rivalry, potentially in the finals of that showdown bracket. 2 Danish teams in my mind working through some struggles. Obviously, Heroic's been playing super well for quite some time, but not able to get over that hump, not able to get over like the top 4 finishes, and in some of those kind of semifinal losses they've had, disappointing losses where they feel like they probably had a chance. And then so you add into that, 2 Danish teams not playing to the level that they want for different reasons and at different places. A lot of frustration building there. And then you also add in this whole Cadian versus Glaive rivalry, which is developing. 2 Danish in-game leaders, 2 very strong personalities. We saw it kind of bleed over onto Twitter just a few weeks back. We saw it bleed over, as the Richard Lewis report came out and said, actually at the Pro League, in the breakfast hall and everything like that. So actually, some rivalry that's actually kind of building between these 2 teams and in-game leaders. That's going to make this matchup, which would be for the final spot in the finals, actually super intense.
Yeah, and there's even a 3rd Danish team in there in Copenhagen Flames, right? Which could I think theoretically beat Heroic in that top bracket even as well. Like there's still such a scary team, I would say. But yeah, I mean that's gonna be so much fun. I like the rivalry. Obviously, they want you want them to keep it civil, but at the same time, it's cool to see that they're really passionate about what they're doing, I suppose. So yeah, I think that's gonna be really wild. I'm super interested if they have to get past Copenhagen Flames first before Cadian could even get a shot at Glaive again to try and see if they can win that fight.
The Copenhagen Flames one is super interesting just because they've gotten to like fly under the radar, ever since like that impressive run at the Stockholm Major where they just narrowly missed out on the playoffs. I believe that was to Device lineup of NIP as well, was their final game that they were playing for that spot in. So that was obviously upsetting. But even those guys lurking right beneath the surface as kind of an upset team, I guess it's the danger of the European side of the bracket that the NA side kind of misses, is you have those favorites of like your Heroic, your Astralis as NIPs. Those are like maybe not the favorites, so to say, but the big names. But then you look at ENCE, who just had that incredible run at EPL. If they can replicate that, you'd put them as a favorite as well. Copenhagen Flames, if they can find some of their upset potential they had in Stockholm. And the sneaky one, the really hardcore dark horse pick, if you wanted to go this route, Movie Star Riders. After the run they had, they went 5-0 in their Pro League group, obviously got knocked out, I think, their first game in the playoffs. But I mean, if you look at those guys and you say there's a real chance that they can kind of burn through this bracket as well, based off that EPL performance, that is a hardcore, that's not for the faint of heart dark horse pickers.
Yeah, no, they were super impressive. I'm excited. I'm excited for a bunch of reasons. I mean, it's a cool thing to have Spanish Counter-Strike even back at all. For people who haven't been watching for a long time, might have forgot that was a thing. But it was in the beginning of CSGO. There were lots of Spanish and also some Portuguese players that were playing. Musambani, yeah, exactly. We had a couple of them right there. So that's exciting. Something I do actually think is really cool about Copenhagen Flames. My big fear was when you have that kind of performance at the last major, and people just are not expecting it. I was really worried that they were going to get either sold off to like another organization or just split up, right? Okay. This can happen so easily. Someone comes in, and I mean, people like Roy have already tried that once with, was it like Fun
Madlands?
Yeah, exactly, right. Like they've already tried that once, where suddenly it's like, oh, we're sniping away Bubsky, we're getting some of the good players out of the team, we're buying them into something else. I'm glad that they stuck together with this lineup. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do, obviously. Yeah. Would love that return to form. My final point to watch is actually for all the North American fans out there, although relatively negative point to make, but I think it's an important one nonetheless. There is some real potential that Team Liquid gets upset running through their bracket. And you have to think historically for Team Liquid, these online regional events that they return to after boot camping in Europe, after playing on stages in Europe, and you come back home and you play online regional matches, they've been historically pretty rough for Team Liquid. You know, I experienced it myself as a coach there for some time, just feeling the level and the energy drop a little bit. Their opponents who have been practicing and playing in leagues and playing in online matches at home in North America throughout the entirety of their time in Europe are feeling right at home, playing as they have, all comfortable. So there's some real disadvantages for Team Liquid coming back into this kind of a competition. They lost, as Floppy mentioned, to Complexity in the PGL Open qualifier 14-16.
Yeah.
Excuse me. They had a 19-16 overtime win against Team One as well. So it's not just that their level maybe drops a step or two. It's also their opposition probably raises a step or two just from sheer comfort of the environment. So I think it would be surprising to see Team Liquid get upset, but don't be surprised if it happens, because the potential is certainly there every step of the way.
Yeah, if you just look at the names, I guess kind of like what I did, you say Liquid, they're going to make it out, but that's a good point. You want to be real careful if they don't match the energy, and that's what's so unforgiving, right? Like you don't have any time to make up for it. If you start off badly, you just be out almost immediately.
Yeah, it is the crazy thing of the format, and I don't know if we have the NA bracket ready. I know I'm throwing you under the bus a little bit, but if you could throw it up, that'd be awesome. I mean, just look at kind of, I mean, Floppy even saying MIBR is a good team, but Complexity's already beat them once in that online match. This is going to be a best of 3, not a best of 1, so it might be more difficult in that semifinal for Complexity to take them. But look, Pain Gaming, even, I mean, look, the series itself was a 2-1 victory for Team Liquid. It was a blowout, but they did lose a map to Pain Gaming, I believe in the Open. I think that was actually, maybe it was last year that Liquid lost to them, and IM Fall is the different roster. But, you know, there's some potential here for Pain and some of these Brazilian teams that surprised in the RMRs. Probably didn't surprise the Brazilian fans a whole lot, but surprised, I think, a lot of the NA people. I mean, there's some obstacles here for Team Liquid where they might not even make it to the final.
There's such a crazy amount of Brazilian teams that are playing now. It's definitely exciting. And, you know, I still wonder, because some of the players that are on these teams that are kind of a little bit spread out. I mean, I feel like you could even go on and recombine these if you know, if this doesn't work for this, you know, summer spring season of Counter-Strike. Like, it's possible that some of these players will switch around, I suppose, between some of these 4 teams, right? So that even itself could be really interesting just for the Brazilian side of it. But I would hate to make really strong predictions about anything that's happening here, because I just think it's so hard to like. I did go the super easy route of saying like, oh yeah, Liquid. Like you could easily say, oh, we're probably going to be Liquid and Fury in that final, but man, I wouldn't sleep well if I had to make a bet a lot on that. That'd be a problem.
Yeah, no, that is a wild one, because I'm the same way. Well, I mean, even if you think about it in that sense, right? Like there's some upset potential in that quarterfinal, in the semifinal. But even if they make it all the way to the final, let's say it's against Furia, that's still like a kind of a coin toss to even have a single North American team at the Blast finals. Like, remember, none of them made it through the groups the easy way. They all have to do it the hard way. So we're only going to have one North American or South American team. And I mean, that Liquid versus Furia matchup, yeah, Liquid probably still has a bigger name value that just immediately says that they're the superior squad in your head. But Furia is no slouches. They almost made the finals of Pro League just the other week. They breezed through the RMR competition. So, you know, you even get to the final, Liquid Furia, and just toss a coin which one's going to make it.
Yeah, unpredictable and presumably a lot of heartbreak, right? I think especially for the teams that haven't qualified for the major already, right? It feels like this would be a redemption arc if you could at least make it in here and get to play in Lisbon and all the rest of it. That'd be really exciting. So if you fail sort of back to back here, it's not going to be a good week.
And that'd be the big goal for I mean, obviously the big name that falls into that category is Evil Geniuses, with their kind of shocking drop and not qualifying for the major, and their kind of shocking performance at Pro League, and their kind of shocking performance at IM Katowice. Shocking all in a bad way each and every time, and I apologize for hammering that home. But man, one more disappointment when you're staring at a month in which you're going to have to be at home watching the major. I think this bracket to show some positivity for EG. And look, Godsent, they're no slouch. They weren't at the RMR. They got kind of upset through the qualifier as well. But towards the end of last year, they were looking dangerous with Taco at the helm also. So, look, I think when it comes to North American Counter-Strike specifically, I think it's going to still have a little bit of ways that it's going to get worse before it can start getting better.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we got to see a fair bit of Godsend recently, right? And you're right, Taco and Henny are obviously sort of some of the names that stand out a little bit. But it turned out that actually everyone else on that team is super dangerous too. I think Barton, we've heard about a little bit about before, but I bet he's definitely been stepping it up. But Dumao and Lado that are on that team too are also incredibly competent.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually really hard to pick if you had to sort of guess in any given round that Godsend already getting mapped that they're playing who's going to be sort of the highest performer. It's going to be it could be almost any one of them at this point. And I think even when we saw them during ESL Pro League, I think Henny hadn't even really fit properly into the team yet. Obviously, going to be taking up that AWP role. And you could tell that he was still kind of like feeling out the whole team. So it's even possible that Godsend could be significantly better just from having more time to play with Henny, right? So that could also be like a little bit of a weird backdoor for Godsend to win some matches.
Yeah, scary times out there in the showdown. And as we mentioned, it's unforgiving. It's single elimination brackets all the way. One team from the Americas, one team from the European/Asian qualifier as well in the showdown. Gonna be fun. I'm excited to get to it. Either way, Anders, thanks for joining us. That's it for this inaugural episode of Load In. Appreciate you coming on. We're going to be doing, as we mentioned, Load Out, which is going to be the show after the Blast event is going to be coming up, obviously after the showdown ends. But for now, just enjoy what we got coming to you. The RMR is going to be finishing up, and then we have the Blast Spring Showdown starting up next week. That's going to be on April 27th. Also, remember, that's a spot for the finals that are going to be taking place in Lisbon as Blast returns to Lisbon, as they've wanted to for almost 4 years. Tickets for that go on sale tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. European time. So set your alarms, set your clocks. And Lisbon was absolutely magnificent last time. No reason to think it's going to be any different. But until now, or for now, we'll see you at the showdown next week. Thanks for tuning in.